Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ.
Oh, yeah, and I'm Chip. So now, since you're over there, you're jumping me on hello.
Well, the thing
Welcome to
is that
Spindle City.
it seems like there's a
It's
5 second
Monday. It's
delay.
Monday in the Riv.
Seems like there's a
It's
five
it's a
second
big
delay.
Monday. It's a
So,
Monday in the Riv, and
a rainy Monday.
a rainy Monday, and maybe possible thunder showers. And it's a big Monday. Well, I guess we have to lead. Unfortunately, as always, there was a shooting. A 15-year-old female was shot on Danforth Street, and multiple shell casings were found in the area, and it's under investigation. And I guess the perpetrator has not been brought to justice. And again, no comment at all. Just ignore it from our illustrious mayor. So again,
Well, and you know what's interesting is remember, we don't have a shooting problem in Fall River. We don't have a gun issue problem in Fall River. Remember that
no, we
comment?
don't. We don't have any. Yeah, we don't have any problems in Fall River. It's beautiful. Yeah, he ran into somebody from Wellesley on the pickleball court. Well, that's because he doesn't walk around Corky Road and find the people who can't pay their rent. And he
Right.
has no problem with the rents either. So I mean, look, he lives in a dream world full of all his real circle of friends. His his banker friends, his lawyer friends, his developer friends, his rich friends, his political tick friends. So that's his world, and that's the reality. Yeah, it's just like they say that rich people don't feel inflation. Of course they don't, because if they're paying $8 for a dozen eggs, it's no big deal to them. But somebody that has virtually no money and can barely afford food, it's an issue. And the crime issue is it's crazy, and and that's the thing that disturbs me. They just totally ignore it. They just totally ignore it. Just pretend that nothing's happened. It was on the local radio, I guess. I guess they had to. They finally had to put it on the radio. But the reality is they don't. They just don't. They just want to ignore it. And in the infamous words of our friend, keep your mouth shut, your head down, and it'll pass, and people will forget. But they're not going to forget, because they have neighborhoods where they're afraid to go out in. So it is what it is. But today, Monday, is a Monday, and it's also the day that a mayoral candidate makes his official announcement. So Sam Sutter will be giving a speech at the plaza at 2 p.m., I believe. So if you want to hear what the opening speech, by all means, go down there.
Hopefully the rain holds off. Hopefully the rain holds off. So, I had a few conversations with people over this past weekend, and they were a little how do I want to put this? Detrimental to Sam's campaign, and I think he needs to know about this. I had mentioned that Paul keeps using the term Hispanics or minorities for problems with the Florida educational system, and this person said that he's not a racist. She says he's not a racist, and I said, really? And I sent her a statement that came in from Sam. The main difference between me and Coogan is this: I get things done, and he doesn't. He's never had to. He's always been protected by his political connections. I never was. So he can't deliver on economic development or unemployment. I did. He can't deliver on crime. I did. He can't deliver on improving schools. I was doing that and will again. He can't deliver on affordable housing. I will. And he is devoid of new ideas. I am always churning with new ideas. Just look at what I did as DA. The contrast is stark. I will expand on all these points on Monday. Thank you for reaching out. But here's what he will, but does not say how. He sucks. I Googled his term and nothing came up except the $10 fee. That man did nothing but harm. He shut down immigration. He shut down the Flint Library. He sucks. He acknowledged that he acknowledged that the $10 fee was a mistake and he listened to the wrong people. But he was told it was the fee or cuts in police and fire. He had to make cuts to make an $8 million shortfall left by Flanagan. It's either Paul who sucks or who sucks worse than Sam. They both suck. Rather keep Coogan. Coogan is a liar and a thief. He threatened BCC with withholding funds. Yes, we have proof of that. He threatened BCC with withholding funds if they did not cancel our show, and so they did. He keeps lying to the people about funding the budget and has failed to prove to the citizens and the city council how the city is paying for the new police contracts. That's all of them. They all lie. Not one mayor that has been in office has been truthful. Not one. Sam will do the same if in. Sam, not sure what he wants to run for mayor. He is a DA and is near 70 years old, if not older. I don't know how old Sam is, but Paul is no.
And it's look, all that stuff is irrelevant. That's political rhetoric.
Exactly.
To engage in that stuff. Let Sutter's campaign. Let him knock on doors. The reality is that guy, whoever wrote that, is a Coogan political tick. We know that. Coogan has done zero. And to say that the only thing he could find was a $10 fee because it was the only thing they can find out that actually he didn't do, because he does have a record about reducing crime.
Right.
There are newspaper articles about that. He did bring actually the mall he's standing in, he brought there. He brought Market Basket here. So, as far as getting things done, you may not have liked the $10 fee, but it was a choice between public safety, because there's a sword of Damocles hanging over your head as the mayor. He was only in for a few months, and he had to make that choice, and he made that choice. People may disagree. They elected Jazel, who made a lot of promises, and we all know how that ended. But the reality is, that's a negative. Well, you know what that is? That's a catch-22. Because now if you lay off fire and police, they crucify you for cutting public safety. If you implement a fee, he made a choice. And I happen to agree with it, because I don't believe in ever cutting public safety except as a last resort, not a threat to raise taxes. He didn't raise taxes. He implemented a fee. And that fee
the public has always supported public safety. And while they didn't like the $10 fee, I firmly believe that if they had been able, because with Prop 2.5 we can't, but if we had been able to raise taxes $100 a quarter, I think that the people would have accepted it if they said this is for public safety. But because there was a $10 fee that was put on trash, and remember, that's where the dichotomy came in. It was put on trash. People said, well, it's not for public safety, it's for trash. And
look, you can look at CJ. This is what pisses me off about campaigns. Everybody twists everything around. Listen, the city is a forest, not a tree. You can spin it any way you want. The reality is, he said it was to keep public safety. You want to say, no, it's on trash. I don't give a damn what it's on. If it's going to maintain public safety, you got a choice. I think people would have rather paid anything. But the reality is, I'm not in favor of anything. Of anything. Until you start tightening your budget. Because I'm sick and tired of every mayor spending like a drunken sailor. And he was only in there, he inherited the budget from Flanagan, and he was looking to try to put a budget in to maintain public safety. So what his term in mayor was so short, you can't even use it. You look at his record on crime, everything he wrote is accurate. The reality is that this is all election year bullshit, because that's exactly what it is. They're going to spin everything against him if they're against him, and everything he did. But the only difference is he actually has a record of leadership. He actually has a record as somebody, and he actually had a real job. Because if he doesn't work and didn't perform as an attorney, he wouldn't be eating. Paul Coogan never had to worry about getting a paycheck, no matter how abysmal his performance is, and it remains the same today. He's a mayor that's been in for nearly 4 years and has done absolutely nothing except drive rents up. Where's the small businesses? Where's the, and I've got the quote from him. Economic development, community development go hand in hand. One cannot survive with the other. This is his quote. This is his quote. And I got a whole bunch of them. And he did absolutely nothing of any of those quotes. He's done nothing. All he has done, his idea of elevating Fall River is to bring in outside developers to drive out rents and drive people out of their homes. Some people may like that. The yuppies, the elitists, the connected, they're all getting jobs and they can all afford it. But the people being pushed out of the homes, and he's made that cavalier comment. Oh, well, yeah, some people are going to get displaced. Yeah, most of them are ultimately in this community. Because, you know, I know you lived in Somerset. You may still live in Somerset for all we know. But the fact is that you don't know your own city because you lived in that academic bubble and political bubble your whole life. You've always had a nice paycheck, no matter how good or bad you performed. You've never been in a real world. And you act like it. So your friends want to play pickleball and drive around their electric cars and say, let them eat cake. Let the poor people get out. If they don't like it, they can go to Russia. If they don't like it, they can leave the city. Well, where are they going to go? How many goddamn times do we have to say that this community has an average per capita income of $28,000? Do the math. I did the math the last time. $28,000. You get an apartment for $18,000 or $2,000 a month. Well, $2,000 a month, you got $4,000 left for the entire year from your gross income as a single person. If not, you got a little bit more. But I did the math, and you end up with about, I don't know, $4 a week to spend on your bills and your food. This is, you know, this is what irritates me. This is why I hate the political season, because you listen to all this garbage, and we've told people for 12 years, don't listen to the noise. Check your facts. 28,000 is the per capita income. When I read it on the last show, I took it right out of the United States Census Bureau. Right out of it. And I took the household income, which was 49 and change. It was 28 and change. That's not some fabrication that we made up like they do. Check your numbers. Don't believe us. Get online. Put in per capita income, city of Fall River, and it'll come up with a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of areas. But go to the United States Census Bureau, because that's what most people use. That's what I've always used. Go to it and see if what I read is correct. And it is, because I did it the morning of the show. And this just infuriates. I have never seen this city in such terrible condition. I have never seen it economically. I mean, we're gonna crash and burn so bad. Where are the Cooganites telling me that your tax bill went up, but it only went up half of what it should have went up because he's plugging it up with ARPA money? But then after the next term and the ARPA money's gone, here it comes. You can take whatever your tax bill went up and multiply it.
Right. Right. And, you know, and there's no question about it.
And then you're going to have Durfee and Diamond.
Correct.
And these contracts, which are being funded by, we're looking at some investments down the road. That's not a funding source. That's like saying maybe we'll get lucky and hit a lottery ticket. So, you know, this whole thing is just, as you can see, this upsets me. We're going to bring some candidates on this show during the campaign season, and we're going to give them an hour or half an hour, as long as they want, up to 1 hour, to give us their platform, and then we will ask them questions about what they're going to do about crime, what they're going to do about bringing affordable housing in. What is their position on uncontrolled spending? Because that's the issue here. We got a guy that comes from a place where there's never a cap on spending. You just get as much money as you want when you're in a school department. Just shut up and give it to us, because if you don't, you're violating the law.
Well, you know,
this is what you got.
Couganomics is a wonderful thing. I remember when we had magic money. Remember magic money?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think that was Sutter's chief of staff that came up with that.
That's right. That's right. That was Lupichico's for magic money. And that's what Paul has. Only his magic money is a lottery ticket called ARPA.
Yeah.
And when he's been questioned about how is that money being spent on Durfee, how is that money being spent for the debt exclusion, where is the debt exclusion money, and how much is it that the taxpayers are paying? Crickets. Nothing. Hello, anyone there? Hello, nothing.
It's worse than that. Nelson put in a public records request, and he still hasn't heard.
Exactly, nothing. And here's the funny part about it, which is something I don't know if Nelson realizes it or not. If the mayor has not created a document showing how much debt exclusion money is attached to each taxpayer's bill, or the cost per 100,000 for each taxpayer's bill, he has nothing to provide. And I'll guarantee you that when the Secretary of State gets involved, if the Secretary of State gets involved, that's going to be the answer. We don't have the documents. Because remember, they provided that answer to me about the picnic grove. They didn't have the documents. And then it was also too broad. Then all of a sudden, they don't have a deed, but they have an assessor's card for another piece of land. That made perfect sense. This is what happens when they continuously try to hide. Okay? Paul runs around and picks up the carpet and, sweeps everything under the carpet, puts the carpet down, and walks over the top without falling, he hopes. So it just gets better and better as time goes on. And I know that, we have been told, and, our friend Jim McKibney, or whatever his name is, he keeps saying, knobs, we're knobs. Well, I'm a crystal doorknob, thank you.
Well, don't even mention him anymore, because you know something, he's a non-entity. He's got some show that nobody watches, and he watches us, and without the material we give him, he would have nothing to say, because he doesn't. Right. All he does is spout his opinions on what other people say. So he's merely an observer of reality. And we've done things in his community. Like I said, we've done things in his community for the people of his community, and he has done nothing. We've put in the time, we've put in the work, we've earned it. And, he wants to, I'm not gonna, attack him because he, as they say, is too young. He has no experience, or he doesn't have the cotton. He's just a nitwit. And, why should we give him airtime and discuss his comments? So look, we've said from the get-go, you don't like it, fine. Because you know something? You don't pay my bills, buddy. You don't you're meaningless to me. You are a non-entity. You are about as important to my life as an amoeba.
Well, you don't want to get amoebic dysentery, that's for sure.
And that's an insult to amoebas.
Yes.
Well, actually, he's already done that. That's all he gives you, because he's got diarrhea of the lips.
That's it. But it's very interesting. But you brought up the election season, and I have some information. The following people have filed for mayor: Paul Coogan, C. Samuel Sutter, and Michael J. Vandell. Michael Vandell was the first person, Paul was the second, and Sam was the third. He filed on July 6th. For the city council, Linda Pereira, Laura Washington, what a shame, Paul Hart, Gloria Sadler, Brad Kilby, Michelle Dion, and she has filed. Joseph Joe D. Camara, he filed. Again, what a shame. Andrew Raposo, Ricky Teeth, Joshua Texera. I don't know who that is. I haven't heard anything about him yet. I hopefully he gets a hold of us so we can know something. Joseph Salvador, Bob
Do you know
Pearson.
that name?
Excuse me?
Do you know him? I don't. That name.
I don't
doesn't
know
ring
Joe
a-
Salvador either, so hopefully he gets a hold of us. Bob Pearson. I know Bob Pearson. I think you know
Yeah.
Bob Pearson.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
Bob's a great guy. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him on the city council. I remember him on the water board, as a matter of fact. Paulo Amaral, he's making another run. Gabe Boomer Amaral. Alexander Silva, he's on the historic preservation thing in Fall River. Pamela Liberté. Cliff Ponte. Sean Kadim, and Jordan James Silva. And now the disappointing school committee candidates: Charles Chase, excellent candidate, wonderful gentleman; Shelley Pereira, Renee Brown, Colin Dias. I think we should give him a shot. Michelle Mimi Larrabee, she's had her shot. She's over and done with. Kevin Aguiar, he still fights for the people, fights for the students. I got to give, as much as we don't agree on a lot of things, his behavior as a representative of the people has been true to life. Sarah Rodricks, she's another one. She's been representing the people, true to life. Tom Corey, Bobby Bailey, Bob Bailey, I didn't hear much of at all this past year. And Warren Alves. I'm not sure Warren Alves, but I mean, he might be somebody that we might want to talk to. But those are the names so far. That's it, because there can be no more names. And all that's left is for a few people to file their paperwork.
Well, I see some. We see some new names, new faces. Oh, some people who have run before but are not part of the cabal. But I see a lot of cabalites there. It's like
Yeah.
Tom Corey. Tom Corey implemented the let him forget. He took a term off, then came back after the Malone fiasco.
Right.
So so I see a lot of people aligning with the Coogan administration, and that's not a good thing. We don't have any balance in government. Government is supposed to be checks and balances. The city council is supposed to be the financial arm. They're supposed to have a fiduciary obligation to the people of Fall River, and they don't. What they do is, by their own admission, they go up and ask Paul what they, okay, is this okay? Yeah, all right. I'll just rubber stamp you. So they only had 3 people vote against this budget, which is abysmal, because this budget is a catastrophe. I mean, there's no funding sources for virtually anything in there. The financial team should all be fired, and all their assistants, because they have to have all these consultants because they can't do the job. And Paul's not in the loop by his own admission. So he's the head of the city. And when the city goes bankrupt, what's he going to blame? The financial team? He's the mayor, and it has to go through him, and he signed it. So reality is that, listen, getting up there and saying you're funding a contract with some investments that you're looking at down the road is not an acceptable answer. Try to go to the bank and get a mortgage. And when they say, how are you going to pay the mortgage? You go, well, I'm looking at some investments down the road. And a bank will say, yep. And when you can tell us what those investments are, how much money you make for a salary, let us see your tax returns, because we are not going to give you a mortgage that you cannot afford and you shouldn't have. We saw what happened years ago when they gave everybody mortgages, and basically the banks collapsed. The mortgage industry collapsed because they were giving people who could not afford it. Well, the city of Fall River's people can't afford it. Paul thinks that we're going to have this massive influx. 80,000 poor people are going to move out of Fall River. Remember, the majority of people are poor in his city. All the Cooganites and the Couganomics, all the Richie Riches in the North End that are playing pickleball as we speak. They don't care. They got money. That hell, it's actually no big deal and went up. But the reality is the rest of the people in Fall River are suffering. Remember, $28,000 is the median income. Median. We have 19 point, I think 6 the last time, but it's nearly 20% of the people in this community that are living below the poverty level. Below the poverty level. So Paul Coogan says to all these people, which is a lot more than 50%, get out of town. You can't afford it. Tough. And he thinks the train is going to bring down thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you know, the one couple that you met that moved down here that was playing pickleball, they probably got evicted from Wellesley. But the reality is they're not coming down here by the thousands. Why would you come here where people are getting shot on the street? 15-year-old shot in the arm. The school department is underperforming. And you say, well, there's nothing we can do about it because we've got too large a Hispanic population. Well, if that's not racist, I don't know what is. So what are you saying now? You don't want poor people, but you don't want minorities and Hispanics in the school system either. That's the cure. Not educate the children, because that's what you're getting supposedly paid to do. And I hope that the Hispanic community in his city bands together and shows him. And if I was running a campaign, I would be going after those Hispanic voters now because they're being disrespected. Wasn't the superintendent of the Providence school system, wasn't she Hispanic? And somebody in a very high at a state level was also Hispanic. So obviously Hispanics can be educated because they were both
Right.
PhDs.
Right.
So to make a statement like that, especially from an educator, is reprehensible.
And the thing is that I firmly believe that Paul doesn't believe he is racist. I don't think he believes he's racist. I don't think he believes his comments are racist because he walks around like this. You know, he's got the blinders on. He can't see anything around either way. And I'm sure if he was confronted and asked about those comments, I'm sure he would have another,
excuse.
A ring around the rosy type of excuse. And the sad part about it is he doesn't realize how much he's hurting the people. Okay?
Well, yeah. Well, CJ, we've heard about this thing with this new wave of, the issues we've had today about, white fragility and this and that, and how there's subtle racism. Well, he may not think it's racist, but it is racist.
Right.
The reality is, as an educator, he's saying that a segment of the population can't be educated. They're the problem, not the educational system. And I don't know, how many movies have you seen? And I like to watch movies. How many movies have you seen about schools who implemented programs in the inner city? And listen, nobody's gonna discount the fact that it is difficult. It's a difficult issue in cities like Fall River because a lot of these people come from very poor families. They're not well educated. They're not sitting at home doing their homework with their children and even being able to help their children with homework because they're too busy trying to make a living. They're not picking their colleges when they're in middle school. And this actually happens into the rich people. And because my son was ranked very high in tennis. He was an excellent tennis player. And he played with a whole bunch of people up in East Providence and Providence, and he played in tournaments. And I saw those kids on a daily basis. They're all great kids. But you saw the difference in the way their life is. These kids they weren't in high school yet. And they were talking about what colleges they wanted to go to. And then they were deciding whether they wanted to go to Providence Country Day or Moses Brown to high school. Very expensive, prestigious schools. That's their life. Their parents are all well educated. They probably had time to sit down with them. It's difficult. Some of these poorer kids they actually need the help and the support of a good educational system. So to get back to the movies, how many movies have you seen? There was one with, I forgot her name now, the actress. She played in Sophie's Choice, but they started a violin program in inner city New York. And that violin program for disadvantaged youths turned these kids around. They got them. They got them into the program. Then they were able to educate them. And then there was that famous movie about Hispanics with James Olmos, that they ended up with one of the highest achievements in mathematics. And they were actually tried to stop them from competing in some organizations. And when they scored so high, they actually went back and made them take the test again because they thought they cheated. This is not the way it's supposed to be done. There were chess programs and violin programs and athletic programs are always a way to get them in. But this is what you do when you have people, not only just minorities, there were a lot of poor white kids whose parents have worked their whole lives, and they deserve the respect because a man who doesn't, or a woman who does an honest day's work for an honest day's pay deserves everybody's respect. And Paul cannot, he just can't comprehend that. This is a failure of our educational system. And to blame the children who are there to be educated for the problem that they're not being educated just goes to show how clueless he really is. And I don't care whether it's intentional or intentional. It just goes to show he was ineffective as an educator and he's ineffective as a mayor. It's that simple.
Well, there's no question about that at all. And I'll tell you right now, one of the things that people need to remember is it is an election season, and as we always say, get out and vote. Remember, at 2:00 today, Sam Sutter will be having a formal campaign announcement up at the South Coast Plaza Marketplace, which he was key in bringing to Fall River. So if you want to hear what he has to say and meet him and talk to him and ask him some questions, go up there at 2:00 and meet him. So it sounds like a good idea to me. I want to thank you all for watching. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. Thanks for watching.
And make sure you vote.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Wednesday.